I'm a pretty weird guy, and I get a lot of questions. Jason, why do you do the things you do? Why are you always on that treadmill? Why do you believe in God? Why do you pray so much? Why do you study the Bible so much? Why do you exercise so much? Why do you grow your own food? Why are you into trading? I get these questions from people not only on live streams, but even in my own life. And the reality is, the reason I do the things I do is because when I look around at the world, I don't like the things that I see. I don't like the lack of morality that I see from people in my own generation. And so I want that to change. And so the only thing I can do is be the change that I want to see. I can fear the Lord. I can live a biblical lifestyle. I look around and I see people my age, your average guy, fat, sick. He hates his job. He's depressed. I don't like that. So I want that to change. So what can I do? I can stand up and I can be different. I can grow my own food. I can exercise. I can be healthy. I can escape the system that is taking people that I see in my own generation and other ages and bringing them down. And I can be different, and then other people can see that, and I can influence other people so that we can get a movement in the direction that I would like to see. And so this is why I'm so weird. I walk on the treadmill. It's very strange for some people. It's because I prioritize health. I don't want to live like your average American couch potato sitting at a desk job all day, right? And what I'm about to share with you in this video is I'm going to revisit a video that I made about half a year ago when it was still the summer, and I'm going to go over my self-sufficient lifestyle and how I truly believe that if everybody starts to take on a little bit of the mindset of moving in the direction personally of the changes that they wish they could see in the world, they will influence other people, and we can actually start to see some change. But it's got to start ground up, and that begins with me, that begins with us, that begins with the individual saying, you know what, I don't like what I see, so I am going to be different. I am going to make a change. So this is a different kind of video. Make sure to like, subscribe. I hope you enjoy it. There are two kinds of people in this world. You've got producers and you've got consumers. Now, the more of a consumer somebody is, the more that person will be a slave to the system. But the more you can move in the direction of becoming a producer, the more freedom you will get in your life. In our Western civilization, concepts like liberty, self-autonomy, individuality, self-sufficiency have been very important ideals. However, when I look around at our society, the average person is not free. They don't have liberty. They don't have self-sufficiency. In fact, they are slaves to the system. They are slaves to some kind of corporation, which is going to dictate whether or not they have the means to buy food from another corporation or buy a house from another corporation. And they're relying on all these outside things to basically allow them to live their day-to-day life. Now, in my opinion, this is a very compromising position to allow yourself or your family to get into. Now, this YouTube channel exists primarily to talk about technical analysis and trading and cryptocurrency, but the reason I got into trading and cryptocurrency in the first place is because I recognized the amount of freedom that you can gain from doing what I do on this channel. You can generate an income without needing to have a boss, without needing to have clients, without hours, without having to be strapped to a specific location. But for me, cryptocurrency and trading and making money in that way is not an end of itself. It's a means to an end, to become more and more self-sufficient, to become more and more of a producer, so I can be less and less enslaved to the system that, in my opinion, is looking to clamp down much harder on Western civilization. And so I want to make a few videos, a series of videos, going through how you can start going in that direction of becoming less of a consumer and more of a producer, so that you can be more free, more independent, more autonomous in your life. So make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because this is going to be a lot of great content for those of you who don't want to be a slave to the system. Now, your average consumer in the West is in a very sad state, in my opinion. You've got your typical guy around my age working some job that he hates for some pay that can barely get him by paycheck to paycheck. He eats a whole bunch of junky, unhealthy food, drinks a lot of alcohol, doesn't get good sleep, pretty much lives a miserable life. And when you think about this type of person,
If any of the institutions like the pharmaceutical industrial complex or the big food industry or the supply chain or the electric or anything goes away, this person is screwed. They're completely incapable of taking care of themselves and their family without these external systems because they have become slaves. If they lose their job, they have no way to make money, which means they have no way to keep the lights on, which means they have no way to buy food and support their family. And they're in a very compromised situation. So what I like to do is I like to look around at my life and ask myself, what things am I enslaved to? What things, if they were to go away or turn against me, would put me in a position where I wouldn't be able to take care of myself and take care of my family? Now, there's a lot of aspects to this. I believe we can talk about businesses and finances, right? Generating income. We could talk about health and fitness, spirituality, community, having good relationships. But when it comes to the physical, what is just the most necessary on a day-to-day basis to survive, it has to do with your food, right? When you think about it, why do people go to school to get a degree, to get a job, to get a paycheck? At the end of the day, it's for two things: food and shelter. Without food and shelter, you can't live, right? Now, a lot of people have become completely dependent on the system, on the supply chain, on grocery stores, on ordering out, on fast food to survive day to day. When historically, we can go back for thousands of years, and it was perfectly normal for humans to produce a lot of their own food on their own land as much as possible. And within the last 100, 150 years, especially in the West, we have lost touch with this fundamental aspect of, in my opinion, being a human, right? God created man in his own image. He put them in a garden to be gardeners, right? This is our first job. And we've outsourced producing our own food. Literally, you go outside, if you have any grass, that land can produce the things you need to survive and be healthy. But we've outsourced that to these large corporations, these large industries that, in my opinion, don't really have our health in the forefront. And also, we have now lost touch with what food is, where food comes from. And not only has it made us slaves to the grocery store and the supply chain, but it's caused us to lose touch with what it means to be human. The agricultural industrial complex is depleting the soil, is causing animals to be sick, and in effect is causing us to be sick. And it's actually killing us slowly over time. Now, being the best trader in the world, being a Bitcoin millionaire, billionaire, it's not going to help you at all if you can't buy food. Because I don't know if you knew this, but you like to eat. And you like to eat a lot. And if you don't have a way to produce food for yourself and for your family, nothing else really matters when it comes to the physical. I'm not talking about anything spiritual here. When it comes to physically surviving in this body, if you don't have food, nothing else matters. When it comes to growing and producing your own food, the three things that I always keep in mind is, number one, how many calories can this crop produce? And number two, how easy is it to grow? How much work does it take? Is it going to require a lot of my time, or can I just kind of set it and forget it? And then number three, how prolific is this crop? Can I get a lot of abundance from one seed? And so what I do is I ask myself, if tomorrow I was unable to buy anything to eat, what would I be able to grow myself that would actually be able to support my family, that I would be able to survive on? And so that's led me to basically four major staples. And then around those four major staples, I kind of plant other little things that I simply enjoy. Now, the first thing that I really focus on is going to be potatoes. All right, why potatoes? Well, potatoes are very, very, very high in carbohydrates, and they're high in electrolytes like potassium, and they're just a very, very easy thing to grow, a great source of carbohydrates. And when we're talking about calories, right, how much actual energy can I get per crop that I'm planting? Well, potatoes are going to be very, very high up there, right? And another thing I really like about potatoes is they are very, very easy to grow, right? They're super easy to grow. I think anybody can grow potatoes, because all you really need to do is bury them in the dirt. And after you bury them in the dirt, they will, honestly, they will just grow. Now look at this is literally one plant of potatoes, guys. One potato, actually I shouldn't even say one potato. One piece of a potato is giving me all these potatoes right here, okay? Now, a lot of people, they complain about food being so expensive, right? Food being so expensive. Now, let me ask you a question. How much does a box or a bag of potatoes cost, right? You buy a bag of red potatoes. Let's say you get a whole bunch of these red potatoes here. And it probably, I have no idea because I haven't bought potatoes in a long time. But from that one bag of potatoes, you could cut each one of these potatoes into 2 or 3 pieces. And each potato gives you 2 or 3 potato plants. So you buy a 20-pound sack of potatoes, and you cut each one of those potatoes up into 2 or 3 pieces, and now you have triple the amount of potato plants as potatoes that you bought, and you can just keep on doing this year after year. Like, these potatoes are generations old, and go back far enough, I literally bought these potatoes from a grocery store a long time ago, and these are the great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, right? Now, this is one potato plant, and potatoes, again, so many calories. If your goal is, how would I survive if I couldn't go to the store? That's the mindset I do this with. A potato is so awesome. Now, again, all you do is bury it in the ground. When it starts to sprout, you just cover it with more dirt. And then once the plants start to turn brown and die back, you can harvest yourself all these potatoes. Now, for the price of potatoes, it doesn't make sense to me why anybody who has any land at all doesn't grow potatoes. If you have grass, if you have a balcony where you can have 5-gallon buckets full of dirt, you should be growing potatoes, because it's a very, very cheap way to produce a very, very high amount of calories for you and your family, and they store very well. There's a lot of things you can do with your potatoes after you harvest them to keep them all year round. In fact, I still have potatoes from last year's harvest. You can can them. You can make mashed potatoes and put them in a freezer. You can dehydrate them and then put them in a blender and basically have powdered potatoes that you can rehydrate. But one of the ways I also really like to store my potatoes is this. I set up sawhorses and I put plywood down, and I just layer these potatoes here, and then I cover them with some kind of covering. In this case, it's just a moving blanket you can get very, very inexpensively. And over here I've got just a throw rug. And then what you can do is basically these will stay good until like March or April, where they really start to become a little bit inedible because there's too many eyes. And you can layer them on top of each other as well. Like, you can put another layer of potatoes here and then put another blanket down on top. And again, this will last a very long time. And what you want to make sure you do is don't let the potatoes touch each other, because if one goes rotten, it won't spread to another potato. So it's very, very convenient in that way. And again, guys, this is like the foundation of my growing. Potatoes so much better to grow than any kind of grain. You really don't have to worry about pests. You can grow them in the worst soil conditions. I've literally grown potatoes in the worst rocky soil, has never been worked before, and I've gotten some of the most prolific harvests ever in the worst soil conditions. The second staple that I highly recommend is beans. This is a giant bowl of beans that I harvested yesterday. Here's one of those giant ones. Would you look at that thing? Why beans? Well, again, they're very prolific. They produce a lot, and you don't really have to do much work to maintain them. And when the plant becomes fully mature and dries out, it actually puts nitrogen back into the soil. And I'm such a big fan of beans because you can either eat them when they're green, like green string beans, like these. These are some really long. Shout out to Honest Seed Co. Honest Seed Co. They watch my YouTube channel. Shout out to you. Sent me some of these seeds for free of these super long green beans. But look, you can eat them when they're green. You can can them, you can freeze them, or you could wait until they dry. And once they dry, then you have beans, and they're so easy to store, and you can eat them as dry beans, like a pinto bean or a kidney bean. Now, beans, they provide carbohydrates just like the potatoes do, but they also provide protein. There's protein in the beans, and there's a lot of vitamins and nutrients in them if you prepare them properly. Like your dry beans, you got to make sure that you soak them and get all those phytic acids or whatever it is out. But then you have yourself a really good source of protein and carbohydrate. Now, if you combine beans and potatoes, you have a pretty dang nutritious meal. And I also like then to supplement my beans and my potatoes with pumpkins and squash. Now, this is actually a honey nut squash, and it's obviously not ripe yet. It will turn orange when it is ripe. But here's the thing about squash. Now, these butternut squash right here are literally from last year's harvest. These are a whole year old, and they're still good, right? These things last a long time if you let them cure. Just like potatoes, they are so dang easy to grow. And every single squash that you get contains like hundreds of seeds. And each squash could produce 100 plants. So it's very, very easy to save those seeds. And then every year, you're just planting from the seeds, from the crops that you grew the previous year. Now, these honey nut squashes that I'm showing you, I bought back when I lived in the city. And me and my wife were some yuppies living in an apartment in the city. We went and we got these organic honey nut squashes. They were some novel thing that we hadn't seen before. We saved those seeds, and the squashes you're looking at right now are literally like the 6th or 7th generation from those things we bought at the store. So all these squashes that I have here, I mean, literally, I have a whole entire patch of squash going all the way down 100 feet. It's because I spent maybe like $12 7 years ago. And so the amount of calories and vitamins that you can get from these squash is absolutely phenomenal. And in addition to that, you can eat the seeds as well, right? You can soak them, and then you can roast them or dehydrate them, soak them and dehydrate them. And you have yourself now a great source of fat and protein. So based on these 3 crops, potatoes, beans, and squash, all super easy to grow, all super low maintenance, all so easy to just keep the crop going year after year, you now have yourself all 3 macronutrients. You've got lots of carbohydrates, you've got some protein, and a little bit of fat. Also, if you have tons of squash, like zucchinis and yellow squash, and you don't know what to do with it all, you can make for yourself, thank you, you can make for yourself squash flour, where you like grind it up. It's called like Amish flour? Amish flour. And you can use it as a supplement in your breads and all this kind of stuff. It's actually pretty dang tasty. Now, this leads me to the next staple that I believe everybody should have, and that is chickens. Shout out to Milkshake, my oldest rooster. He's the patriarch of the chickens here. Now, chickens are amazing because not only can you eat the chickens, which we do, you can hatch the eggs, which we do, but you can eat the eggs. So you have a daily source of protein and fat, and eggs are one of the most healthy foods you could eat. All right, they are full of vitamins, they are full of minerals, they are full of fats and proteins. If you supplement your potatoes, your beans, your squash with chickens, you could survive off of that. Okay, I have a picture here of a meal that I ate yesterday, and this is literally a chicken that I raised myself. I slaughtered it and I butchered it myself. And I am eating also here potatoes and yellow squash and some green beans. And this was my breakfast. This is a typical meal I would eat. You could survive off of this and thrive off of this. And chickens are super cheap, all right? They are super inexpensive to have. And even if you're buying chickens and not hatching your own, I think it's like $7 for a laying hen. That's super cheap. $7 for a laying hen, and now you've got an egg every single day. Now you might ask yourself, how expensive is it to feed the chickens? Well, I don't know if you can see this here, okay? But I have planted for my chickens this crazy field of amaranth, which is a grain that will actually, chickens will eat it. And also there's oat grass growing here. And just a crazy field of a whole bunch of stuff. So this is amaranth here. This is the grain that's actually going to drop, and the chickens will eat this. I've got the oat grass growing, which the chickens eat, and there's so many bugs and weird stuff in here. I can't even see. The chickens love it, right? It gives them like a place to hide out and stuff. In fact, I wonder if I can see any oats. Here we go. Is this an oat? No, that's just regular grass that bolted here. Where do we got oats in here? I was just seeing some oats the other day. I don't see any oats right now. But my point is, the chickens can kind of free range in this giant area. And they do. I mean, there's some days I come out here and I don't even see any chickens in here because they love to come in here and they hide under the area and they forage for bugs and stuff. And then I also have this other paddock right over here. I had this thing up for shade, but as you can see, the storm came through the other week when I was away and I haven't cleaned it up yet. But I basically rotate the chickens one day, or I should say for a few weeks, I might put them in this paddock right here, where they can free range in the grass. And then for the next few weeks, I'll keep them in this side over here, where there's a lot of oats and amaranth and weeds and all this stuff that they can eat. And I will tell you, I don't have to feed them that much with this system in play because they will free range, they will eat all this stuff. And I will also give them food scraps. Anything we don't finish, anything the kids don't finish, I give it right to the chickens. And the chickens love to eat food scraps. So you can feed your chickens pretty much anything. They will eat anything. They will eat old vegetables, old fruits, old meat, old dairy. You can even give them old chicken. I don't know if that's kosher, but we do. And as long as they're laying eggs every single day, you know that they're healthy. So it really is not that expensive to maintain chickens. Now, you also have to think you're saving money in all these other areas because you're growing lots of your own food. Now, also, like I said, we hatch our own eggs, which you can do very inexpensively if you have an incubator. You know, sometimes you could do it on the hen, but it's a little bit more difficult. Or you could honestly even just get roosters from people who don't want roosters for free. In fact, these are the next meat birds that we're gonna eat. And sorry guys, I know. Actually, I might keep one. This guy reminds me of a rooster I used to have called SBF. I had a rooster named SBF who literally got eaten by a fox. And so I like this guy right here. He might stay because he's a beautiful guy. I might keep one of these guys too because they are so beautiful and they're fat, right? You want those fat roosters to make those fat chicks for those fat. All right, but they're about to get it. Sorry, guys. I let these guys free range from time to time as well. But yeah, these chickens now, this is 7 chickens that I will have to basically be able to eat meat from. And if you're constantly hatching eggs and raising roosters to slaughter, you can have a steady flow of chicken coming in, right? Steady flow of meat coming in. And if you're hatching your own eggs, and especially if you're letting your chickens kind of free range, you can really lower the cost of producing your own meat, right? So now we've got ourselves potatoes, beans, squash. We've got ourselves eggs, and we've got ourselves actual meat. And so this is something that you could survive off of. Now, once you have the foundations in play, you can do other things that you just like. So I'm all about perennial fruits, things that come back year after year that you don't have to worry about. So apples, right? Apples, I love apples. Look at these beautiful, beautiful red apples. Pears as well. Pears are awesome. I love to eat pears. And berries, guys. Raspberries, blackberries. Man, these bushes are so dang prolific. My kids and I, we love to come out here and eat them. If we're not out here for a few days, we can get bowls and bowls and bowls of these berries. I literally, it's been a day since I harvested berries, and we've already got so many new fresh ripe ones coming on here. And these are basically weeds, right? These berries are weeds, and so they're coming back every single year. They're producing lots of berries for you. And you know, I don't do anything to these bushes. Like, I don't maintain them. I don't do anything. I've just put up, as you can see, a little trellis for the vines to grow on. And every year now we're getting nutritious berries, which, you know, when you take all these things together, you're eating pretty well, and you're also eating pretty cheap. And even if you're not producing 100% of your own food, well, you're still producing enough to significantly reduce the costs. The whole reason I got into cryptocurrency in the first place is because I want to become more self-sufficient, right? We all do. That's why we got into crypto. That's why we got into trading in the first place, because we don't want to have our livelihood be dependent on anybody else besides the creator, right, and his providence. And so for me, you know, trading and owning businesses, these are all a means to an end. And the end is actually producing things that I need to survive, so that no matter what happens out there, screw them, right? If they want to make me do something so I can go to the store and buy food, screw them. You know, we don't need the system. We don't need the financial system. We don't need the food industry and all this stuff. If everybody just took on a little bit of this, right? Imagine if, even if you live in the suburbs, right? If everybody in your neighborhood just took on a little bit of this mindset, started growing maybe potatoes, planting some raspberry bushes, having a few chickens in the backyard, the food security would be absolutely amazing. But people don't want to do it. They forget that for thousands of years, humans have grown their own food on their own property. You even go back to World War II, where you had victory gardens. People were encouraged to grow their own food during the war times. And it was a normal thing to have huge gardens, to have chickens and animals, and we've forgotten that. We're losing touch with our humanity. We're losing touch with our Creator, because one thing that growing your own food will really do is it will give you the realization that our food does not come from a store, right? Our food comes from the earth. We need the rain. We need the sun. We need the weather. We need God to provide the things that the earth needs to produce food to sustain us, right? People have lost touch with their humanity. They've lost touch with God, and it's leading them into bondage. It's leading them into slavery, because if you are fully dependent upon an artificial system for your survival, if that system goes out, you are 100% screwed. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm 100% food sovereign. Of course, I'm not. I probably only produce a little bit more than half. In the summertime, the only things that I have to buy are dairy, meat, and some fruit. Dairy, meat, and some fruit. Everything else I produce on my own. And the dairy and the meat that we get is from a local farm. I'm working towards getting dairy and red meat production on my own property. But I'm not here to say that I've like achieved some amazing thing, right? I don't even really know what I'm doing, to be honest with you guys. I've only been doing this for 4 or 5, actually this is now the 5th year that I've been doing this, right? I'm from the city. I don't have any training, any background in this at all. But my point is that because we're in this space where we want to be more self-sufficient and we don't want to be relying on the system, it's so dang easy that if I can do it, anybody can do it. And so I just want to encourage you guys to go on with this mindset of like, what is in my life that is making me a slave to the system? Let's get rid of that right now.
All right, y'all, that is it for today's video. Hope you found some kind of value in this. If you did, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. I'm going to be making more videos along these lines in the future, as long as these Bitcoin markets are so dang boring. May God bless all of you in the name of Jesus, Yeshua, the Messiah. Even if you are not religious, I still pray you and your family are super blessed. And I will see everybody in the next video.